You never hear the sound of your own home until it betrays you. That was the last line of a voicemail that 34-year-old Vanessa Caro left her best friend just one night before her life would unravel in a way no one could have imagined. Her voice on the recording was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that hides a war zone just behind the eyes. This is not a story about a stranger in the shadows. This is a story about how evil wore a familiar face, walked through a familiar door, and sat in a chair you've probably sat in 100 times. Today, we're digging into a case that haunted the quiet, pine-lined streets of Ashwood, Oregon, a town so small it had only one stoplight and a coffee shop named after a goat. A town where everyone knew each other, where people left their doors unlocked not out of carelessness, but out of tradition. A town where no one expected the blood would run under the floorboards of House 17 on Pine Hollow Lane. But it did, and it started, at least, publicly, with a call to 911. On the morning of March 3, 2020, the voice on the other end was male. Clipped. Controlled. "I think my tenant's been hurt," he said. "There's blood in the kitchen. I haven't seen her in days." Police arrived at the property 11 minutes later. It was a weather-worn, two-story house nestled among thin evergreens. The driveway was overgrown. The curtains were drawn. The mail, still in the box, had begun to curl at the corners. But what lay inside was worse. Vanessa Caro's body wasn't in the kitchen. It wasn't even in the bedroom. Officers found her beneath the basement stairs, wrapped in a blue tarpaulin that had once been stored in the garage. Her face was covered, her hands bound with plastic zip ties, and a jagged wound sliced across her left temple. There were signs of a struggle, bruises on her ribs, a broken wrist, and yet, somehow, the rest of the house was immaculate. The floor was vacuumed. The surfaces were wiped clean. No sign of forced entry. No shattered glass. No bloody footprints. It was as though the violence had been surgically extracted, condensed into that small, horrible space under the stairs. To understand how this happened, you need to understand Vanessa Caro. Vanessa wasn't famous. She wasn't rich. But she was magnetic. People were drawn to her. She had this laugh that always came 1 second too late, like she was genuinely surprised to find something funny. She was the kind of person who remembered your coffee order and your dog's name, even if you'd only met twice. She worked part-time as a court transcriptionist and supplemented her income with various odd jobs, including photography gigs, temporary office work, and copywriting for local businesses. Quiet jobs. Flexible. The kind you could disappear into. But she never really disappeared. She was visible, beloved, and, according to her inner circle, terrified, though no one knew exactly of what. She started locking her bedroom door at night, her ex-girlfriend, Camille Bowers, told investigators. I asked her why, and she just smiled. Said she liked the extra layer. That's how she phrased it. The extra layer. The last time Camille saw Vanessa alive was 2 weeks before the body was found. They had coffee at Dune's Edge Cafe. Vanessa looked thinner than usual. Her nails were bitten down. She kept glancing at the window. At first, investigators assumed this was a robbery gone wrong. A squatter, maybe. A desperate addict. But there was one detail that didn't fit. Nothing was missing. Vanessa's laptop was still in the office. Her camera equipment, easily worth $3,000, remained untouched. There was jewelry in her top drawer, cash in her purse, even a spare key taped to the back of painting. All still there, all untouched. And then there was the voicemail. March 2nd, 9:42 p.m. Vanessa had left a voice message on Camille's phone. It had no context, no greeting, no explanation. You never hear the sound of your own home until it betrays you. The water heater breathes louder. The stairs complain. The kitchen smells like bleach even though you didn't use it. I think someone's been in here, Cam. Not recently. While I was gone. Last week, maybe. Maybe longer. Something's off. If anything happens, look in the floorboards beneath the second step. The message cut off. No second message followed. Detectives pried up the second step of the staircase. Beneath it was a flash drive sealed inside a waterproof Ziploc bag. What they found on it changed the entire direction of the case. The flash drive contained 3 months' worth of surveillance footage, grainy, timestamp recordings from a hidden nanny cam Vanessa had installed in the living room. The footage showed nothing out of the ordinary, until it did. On February 18th, at 3:08 a.m., a figure appears. They enter through the back door. They don't hesitate. No fumble. No flashlight. They walk with familiarity, like they've been here before. They move into the living room, sit on the couch, and sit there for over 2 hours. Just sitting, watching the staircase, and then they leave. The next night, they return. Same time, same route. But this time, they bring something with them. A bag. And they don't leave it behind. The footage never captured their face. The hoodie, the gloves, the deliberately obscured camera angle, it all pointed to one thing. This wasn't a random break-in. This was staged, planned, familiar. Police released stills to the public, hoping someone would recognize the figure. Tips flooded in, some sincere, others deranged. But one name came up repeatedly. Lance Dorian. He was 42. Former small business owner turned handyman. Vanessa had hired him the previous summer to repair a damaged window frame. They'd exchanged emails. Some friendly, some flirtatious. But then something shifted. Vanessa had texted Camille about him once. He gives me the weirdest vibe. Nice 1 minute, cold the next. Like he wants to crawl under my skin. Lance Dorian was brought in for questioning. At first, he denied ever being inside her house apart from the original job. But when detectives confronted him with the footage, his posture, his boots, even the way he tilted his head, he went quiet. He asked for a lawyer. With no confession, the police needed more. They dug into Lance's past and unearthed a history of disturbing allegations. A restraining order from an ex-roommate, a bar fight that ended in a fractured jaw, a string of stalking complaints that never led to charges. Then, they found the receipts. Literally. From a local hardware store, a roll of blue torp, plastic zip ties, a box of latex gloves, and a can of industrial bleach, purchased exactly 3 days before Vanessa's estimated time of death. When they searched Lance Dorian's rented garage unit, they discovered the torp's packaging. The missing gloves, a pair of sneakers with faint traces of blood on the sole, blood that matched Vanessa's DNA. But he still wouldn't talk. And so, the case began to move forward, but painfully slow. Forensic reports were still pending. The DA wasn't ready. The small town of Ashwood turned into a hornet's nest of theories. Some believed it was a jealous ex. Others, a stranger obsessed with her photographs. Her online gallery had been oddly popular in niche forums. There were even conspiracy theories about human trafficking and cults. But one thing was clear. Vanessa had sensed it. She had known, on some level, that her house had been infiltrated, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And she tried to leave clues. She left messages. She documented. She warned. And yet, it wasn't enough. The trial of Lance Dorian began 15 months after Vanessa's body was found. By then, the town of Ashwood had changed. The coffee shop once named after a goat had taken down its quirky sign. The stoplight on Main flickered more often than it worked. And the people, once known for waving at strangers, now watched from behind curtains. Something had broken, not just in house number 17, but in all of them. Dorian sat stone-faced throughout most of the proceedings. No apologies, no explanation. The prosecution painted a clear picture: obsession, rejection, entitlement, and premeditated violence. They laid out the timeline, the evidence, the quiet stalking that turned into something far darker. The defense tried to introduce doubt, to lean on circumstantial gaps. But the jury wasn't swayed. He was found guilty on all counts. But justice, as everyone learned, isn't the same as healing. Camille, who had once imagined growing old beside Vanessa, stood outside the courthouse after the verdict. She held the flash drive in her hand, the one Vanessa had hidden beneath the stays. It was scratched at the edges, worn from being passed around during trial. But inside, it still held the quiet strength of a woman who knew she might not make it out alive, and who chose, even then, to speak. Vanessa saved her own story, Camille told reporters. She gave us the ending, even if she didn't get to write it. At her memorial, delayed but not forgotten, Photos from Vanessa's gallery lined the church walls. Snapshots of strangers laughing in parks. Reflections in windows. Shadows that fell in perfect lines across pavement. Ordinary moments, made extraordinary by her eye. Her lens had always found the quiet truths. And perhaps that's what made her death feel so cruel. Because she saw. She knew. And no one saw for her. Later, house number 17 was sold. Stripped to the studs. The new owners gutted the staircase, replaced the flooring, knocked out the basement entirely. But the neighbors say the house still feels uneasy, as if the walls are holding their breath. There are still unanswered questions. Whispers that someone else had helped him. That there was more to the footage than what was shown. That someone, perhaps more than one person, had known she was in danger and stayed silent. But the final truth, the one no one dares to say aloud, is this. Vanessa Caro wasn't killed in a moment. She was killed in the build-up. In the glances people ignored. In the warnings she whispered. In the way the town looked away. Just enough for evil to walk right in. You never hear the sound of your own home until it betrays you, she said. But betrayal rarely begins with a scream. It starts with silence. With hesitation. With a door left unlocked because nothing bad ever happens here. And for Vanessa, it did. Let her story be the sound you never ignore again.